Welcome.
To the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 284 of The Joy of Coding. How's it going? My name's Mike Conley. It's so good to see you. We're going to be hacking on some Firefoxy stuff today. Going to be going through some neat infos. Maybe going to be trying to work on a linting thing, finishing off, or pushing it forward. I don't know if we're going to finish it, but pushing forward that linting thing we were working on last time. Maybe even investigating a strange failure that got brought to my attention earlier today that I thought might be neat, and there's some code review to do, so there's plenty to do. Let's get started. What are we waiting for? Let's just get in there. So let me share my screen. Today is March 30th, 2022, episode 284, and even though I sort of laid out a plan of things that we could approach or things that we could do, a reminder, no plan survives breakfast. We might get stuck just like at the first step here. We might start looking into neat infos and realize that, there's a lot more investigation to do for something, or maybe there's sorry, here, I'm just gonna lock my camera there. Maybe there's we can deep dive on something in the neat infos. It could happen. We might not get to any of these other bullets, or we might find we have no answers for the neat infos, and we move forward into one of these bugs, and we might fix stuff and we might not. Who knows what's going to happen? That's kind of the fun here. You're going to watch me do things that I would normally have been doing during my day job, and that's these things. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the video description for a link. If you are watching this on Mozilla, check out the details section. And if you're watching this on Twitch, I'm going to drop the link into the Twitch chat now. There's the agenda. There you go. And so you can follow along. And as I update and, add things or remove things or edit things, this will automatically sort of update, and you can just refresh in your browser, and it will and you'll get the latest stuff. So let's get started. What do I want to do? Well, the first thing is that I have a number of neat infos I thought we could go through. A couple of Bugzilla bugs have been sitting in my queue waiting for information from me, and I thought we could take a look at some of those. So I'm gonna pull them up. I'm actually gonna start by pulling them up off screen, because my Bugzilla dashboard sometimes refers to security bugs that I don't want to make public. So let me just right, here are a couple. So let me start by putting some links to the neat infos I'm thinking of, or the bugs that I'm thinking of in particular, into the agenda. Let's see, this one, and yeah, and there was another one. This one. Okay. So let's start with this one. This is a bug related to the browser toolbox. I actually filed this 3 years ago, and the neat info I got was if it's still a problem. This can happen if a bug is filed, and the team that's responsible for working on that bug, there's so much work to do. There's lots to do, and there are lots of projects. And not everything can be prioritized. And a bug like this, which is like just about the browser toolbox, and it's like sort of an edge case, it didn't get much attention. And that can happen if something's not like absolutely critical. And so one of the first things that you do, especially with older bugs, is determine whether or not the bug is still relevant, if it still matters, if it's still a factor. Is this bug still reproducible? And I was neat infoed because Hansa, who has been paying more attention to the browser toolbox the past couple weeks, he was like, hey, I couldn't reproduce this on Windows 10. So let's see if we can figure out if I can reproduce this. It looks like Hansa tried to reproduce this on Windows 10. I think I filed this bug on Mac OS, and so let's try and reproduce this on Mac OS. And we're going to step through the steps to reproduce. So let me start by pumping up my font in my console here. Here, we'll clear all that out. We're going to start by doing mock run. And let's actually read through the steps. So we're going to open up Firefox nightly. sorry, hang on. We're going to open Firefox Nightly. We're going to open the Toolbox. So let's open up the browser Toolbox. We can use the keyboard shortcut. And then click on the green full screen button in the macOS title bar to full screen the browser Toolbox. And then quit Nightly, not the browser Toolbox. Okay, so that's interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to full screen this on my other display so that I can still access this this window. So it's full screened over my other window. And now quit Nightly. Okay. Done. So the browser Toolbox closed automatically. Now run Nightly again. And now open the browser Toolbox. And I got a browser Toolbox and the window controls are there. So I think this is actually okay. I think we're all right. Now let me just double check. I did it on a different display. Let me try it on the same display because actually in theory this should be possible that I can like full screen this and then change to this window even though it's full screened on the same display. So let's try it this way. I'm going to quit this. And now let's run again. And we'll open up the browser Toolbox. Yeah, we have our controls. So I think this is no longer reproducible. So because I filed the bug and I can no longer reproduce this, I will mark this as works for me. Thanks for bringing this back up, Hansa. I just tried to reproduce on Mac OS and couldn't see the bad behavior anymore. So I think we're good here. I think this somehow got fixed along the line and we're good here. Thanks. All right, so we can close that as works for me and I get to clear my neat info. Boom. That's one. Next. Actually, you know what I'm going to do too is I'm going to update these links in here to refer to the actual bugs. Okay, next one was this one. Mouse enter and mouse leave fired differently on selects in E10s mode. This was filed 5 years ago. Now E10s mode for selects, this is, if you're not familiar with select dropdowns, that's these things in HTML. And then we've got this like select pop-up, this pop-up that appears over top of it when you choose it. And what's interesting is E10s mode, E10s is a short form. It might actually be in the glossary. Is it in the glossary, E10s? Yeah, E10s is short for electrolysis, which was the multi-process project for Firefox that shipped like way back in the day. And one of the things we had to do to make Firefox work with out-of-process content with electrolysis was make it so that select dropdowns, the dropdowns open in the parent process. And this is because dropdowns, pop-ups, can't be opened in a content process. Content processes are restricted in that they can only draw in the content area. And that's a security restriction that we have very intentionally set up. And so the dropdown for the selects, we also like, we don't want them to draw necessarily outside the, we also kind of want to restrict them to the content area, but we do open them in the parent process. That is an intentional choice. I'm trying to think here if there's, oh yeah, there's a reason why we don't just draw them in the content process. Originally, we were going to do it. We were going to find a way of drawing them in the content process, but then fission happened. And so fission's an interesting case because you can have cross-process frames and you can have a select dropdown inside of like a really small iframe in a different process. And if you open that, you don't want it to be able to draw over top of the content in the surrounding frame if it's in a different process. Like they shouldn't be able to draw over top of one another. So we make the parent process do it. The parent process ends up being the one responsible for it. So that's what E10s mode is for select dropdowns, is making the parent process open up the dropdown. And you know, that's historically different from what we used to do pre E10s, where it would open up in the content process. So that's some context there. And it sounds like we may have changed the behavior of like mouse enter and mouse leave when we did that. And so this was filed 5 years ago. There's a bunch of context here. 5 years ago, I'm like, I'll try and look at this. And then I need info from some people. And then there was like some back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then I was asked 13 days ago if I have context on why the set capture approach doesn't work. And then there's more back and forth. And then this is breaking some functionality on sites. This broke some functionality on Twitch. But then Twitch fixed it. So this is not good. We might actually be breaking the behavior, some expected behavior here. So let's see if we can understand what the actual breakage is, and then see if we can understand what's happening. So we might actually, unfortunately, I have forgotten. Like, I commented on this thing 5 years ago. I have no idea what's happening in this bug, and so I'm basically starting from scratch. So let's read through this and see what's going on. So it seems like selects and their dropdowns are considered separate objects in E10s mode for the purposes of determining when to fire mouse enter and mouse leave events. That's true, actually, because in the when it was being opened in the content process, because it was part of the DOM tree laid out by the content process, or when it was all in one process and the dropdown was being opened in the same process, we could use like the existing structure of the DOM, the existing event framework, because the select dropdown happens to be a child of the select. And so the events would, for mouse enter and mouse leave of the dropdown would behave as it would if there were any other child elements of the select. I don't know if I'm communicating that very, very well, but like essentially it was behaving as expected before because the node, the dropdown, existed in the same process. These days, the dropdown does not exist in the same process. For the purposes of determining when to fire mouse enter, mouse leave events, in a non-E10s window, the select and its dropdown are both counted as one object. That's right, they were bound together into a single thing. You can see this effect in the attached test case by comparing when the events are fired between E10s and non-E10s window. This is breaking the quality option in clips.twitch.com as per their given URL. So unfortunately, a non-E10s mode browser, it's very difficult to actually put Firefox in that mode where it's using dropdowns to run in non-E10s mode. Like, that's not a mode we ship in the browser. Someone just asked in the chat, why doesn't Twitch submit a patch then? Well, I would imagine maybe it's not that important to them. It's maybe more important to us and our users than for them and who they consider their users. I don't know. Maybe they would have. I mean, we collaborate sometimes with other organizations like Twitch, other sites. We have our web compat team that will work with them. And in particular, Twitch looks like they fixed it on their side. So they didn't have to submit a patch to us. They fixed the behavior on their side. But still, I guess we're not doing the expected thing. So, and then it looks like I submitted a patch, but then I didn't land it or something. So that's interesting. Maybe we can dust that off and figure out what's going on. And then there was a test case for mouse enter, mouse leave, and mouse out. Mouse enter. Let's see what happens inside of, say, Safari. So we're going to check the WebKit engine now. See if we can sort of detect the difference in behavior. Okay. Mouse enter. Aha. See, no mouse leave detected. And then as soon as we leave, like, that's what it means. That's what they mean by single object. Like, as soon as the select closes, that's when the mouse out occurs. Whereas over here, the mouse out occurs as soon as the pop-up is opened. So that's the breaking behavior. And then I wrote a patch back in the day. Can I look at this patch? Now, normally this would redirect to a... what's called a Moz review request, which is the old code review system. Let me see if we can sort of, that system appears to be broken, but maybe we can kind of like revive it. Reviewboard.mozilla.org. Like if I went, it's just redirecting to bugs. All right, well, what's in the URL that it wants me to download? That's the URL, okay. And where does that take me? Here's the patch. So the patch was to use set capture and release capture on the element, and I can't exactly remember what set capture and release capture do. Deprecated. Element set capture, and it only works when this pref is enabled. Set this during a mouse down event to grab and retarget all mouse events to this element until the mouse button is released or release capture is called. And we marked that as deprecated back in April of 2021. So that's interesting. Was there, this was 11 months ago that occurred, and was there anything else kind of like introduced to sort of Chrome? Here we go. Chrome only version. That's what we want. We want something that's not exposed to the web. Set capture always works outside of a mouse down event. So who introduced this? Can I search for this in search fox? Who introduced this? Add a Chrome only set capture that can ignore the allowed state. Neil added that. And then how is it used? Is there part 1, part 2? It looks like we just called release capture. So we might actually want to use this. And we can revive this. Release capture, set capture. Well, first of all, let's see if this solution still works. So this file has changed quite a bit. I think it's called select content parent now. Select content parent. Or maybe it's just select parent. Show drop down. Whoops. The linter hated it. Show drop down. So this has been changed quite a bit. Oh, sorry, this has to happen inside of the content. So we're actually looking for select child. And show drop down. Here we go. So maybe we can go, hey, this dot element dot set capture. Let's just use set capture for now. Let's use the old mechanism, and we can figure out whether or not we need to like use the Chrome only API later. But let's just see if this still fixes it. I'm out of tea. I was drinking tea and I just realized I'm all out. I'm all out of tea. All right. So where's the reload button? There we go. And we're going to reload this one. Let's see if we get the same behavior between the two now. So, hup, hup. Not really. It's still behaving the same. Now, is that pref for set capture. Is this pref still enabled? Is this API still being used? Set capture enabled. It is true. Is there anything in the... Nothing in the console that suggests why it might not be working. Let's open up the browser debugger. Make sure we're hitting it. Select child. Set capture right there. Okay. So we didn't get an exception thrown or anything. Now what happens if instead of doing set capture, oh, what event is on the stack? Because set capture, if I remember correctly, it only works during a mouse down event. And what event is this occurring on? Let's put the breakpoint back. What event is this? Handle event, Moz show dropdown. Aha, that's not going to work. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to use set capture always. We're going to use the Chrome only one, which works even during non-mouse down events. Yeah, it's tricky. This one is failing silently, I guess, because it's an older API. The set capture thing is deprecated, and I think we're slowly trying to remove it. Set capture. Deprecated. Non-standard. Don't use it. That's what this thing's saying. And it's like it only ever shipped in Firefox and Internet Explorer. And they're like, don't do it. Don't do it. But we can use maybe some of the Chrome only ones because it's not exposed to the web. So let's now try this again. Whoops. What is the site? This one. See, still not working. Are we using it correctly? Set capture. Always. Retarget to element. Let's quickly understand what this does. Set the retarget all mouse events to this element until the mouse button is released or release capture is called. Did I have some kind of need info to Neil and then I cleared it? I must have had some kind of in-person conversation. Context why it didn't work. So how is this supposed to work? The set capture always. Set capturing content. Drag start. Retarget to element. If that's true, capture flags. So that means that a particular node is the one that all events are going to be like routed through. And so we must still be firing mouse leave and mouse out events. So I guess my question then is if we can capture what is the mouse leave event? Mouse leave e console log e capture true. We're gonna do that for mouse leave and mouse out. Whoop. So now what I'm doing here is I am logging those two events. You can see that happening there. I want to see what is... Mouse out is fired on the select, and then mouse leave is fired on select body nation. So we mouse leave because we focus on this thing. So it's almost like we want to halt event. Halt some of this event stuff. I wonder if there are other widgets that there might be some pre-existing gunk that we could reuse here. Like there are other form fields like the date time picker that maybe do similar things. Do we do anything with the events? No. No, that's not helpful. Okay, is there another way we could potentially just basically halt events? Halt event dispatch until the picker is closed again. We have this thing called the event state manager, whose job it is to basically manage all this stuff. Is there like a DOM window utils? What do we have in here? Synthesizing mouse events, that's not right. Send touch events. These are all utilities that we can potentially use, but they're mainly used for testing, for synthesizing like native events. Garbage collect, cycle collect, send simple gesture event. Ooh. Suppress event handling. Suppresses or unsuppresses user-initiated event handling in the Windows document subdocuments. What is that all about? I don't know if that's the right choice, but we can look into it. Ooh, and disable non-test mouse events. Non-synthetic test mouse events on all Windows. That sounds wrong. But these sound compelling. Who calls these sorts of things suppress event handling? A lot of native code calls it. Some of our dev tools calls it. Subdocument block. What happens if we do that? Suppress event handling. We could just try it. That's one idea. Disable non-test mouse events. What is that? What's this used for? Looks like it's used inside of our tests, mainly. Test runner. So that sounds like probably not the right choice. There's another sort of like area of utilities that we could consider. Just looking through some of these other methods. It's a real sort of like dumping ground of stuff. Just utilities for doing privileged things. Ask permission. Sure, data frame. Okay, so the other place we might look, we have a candidate here, suppress event handling. Our other candidate is Chrome utils. Not quite. Again, like part of me wonders whether or not, yeah, like what you're saying, Smurfd, should it not be similar to other like menu items? True, except that there aren't too many things where we open, like the source control widget is in one process and the opened panel, the opened menu is in another process. So I'm trying to think if there are any other form controls that kind of fall into this category. Where like some part of it is rendered outside of the parent process. I think it's mainly just pop-ups. So things like the select dropdown. Let's see, like form controls. Let's look at a gallery of form controls. Text input fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, file picker. Yes, those open. Other form controls, text area. Okay, here's a select dropdown where part of it opens up in the parent process, the dropdown. Autocomplete box. You know, that's interesting. The autocomplete boxes. Apple. Do we... This is an interesting question. Is this supposed to have similar, like, mouse over, mouse leave, the autocomplete stuff? Because that's kind of similar. The thing is, though, like at the time where you're messing around and getting an autocomplete box, what's different about it is that the text field is still actually editable. It's still actually manipulable. Like, like you can still type while you're mousing over this stuff. So there's kind of this implied interactivity that they're both kind of alive, that they're both kind of two separate things that can like operate independently of one another. But I'm curious actually. Let's see if we can mess around with this. Inspect. Input. There's a data list. Alt fruit. Or pick a fruit. This is hidden. Oh, I guess if there's a fallback in the event that you don't support autocomplete. Interesting. So yeah, I had no idea that worked. That's neat. Data list is the fruit list, list is fruit list, and I guess it's able to pull out from alt fruit the suggestion, label for suggestion, like it finds this list inside of the data list. That's neat. I had no idea. Okay, well, I'm curious about events on this thing. So let's start logging events. Let's see. Add event listener, mouse over. Do that for mouse over, mouse enter, mouse leave, and mouse out. Okay. So there's mouse over. And I leave, and then whenever I mouse over these things, it's only whenever I actually mouse over this part of the rect that these events fire. So this is like a detached sort of thing. So I think the select dropdown is more special. Like I presume that's how it would behave in other browsers as well. Okay, well let's try this one thing. Let's try this suppress event handling. It's a little I'm a little unnerved. I've never seen this thing before, but let's just see if it would work. Do we use window utils in here? A little bit. Window set handling user input. I gotcha. Okay, so this dot, was it this dot window? Just win, and win is this element owner global. I think you can also just use content window. Let win. This dot content window utils suppress event handling true. I can already tell though that this is probably not the right solution because we do want events. We do want events. We just want them to fire. Like we don't want to pay attention to the. We almost want to like lock the events that are coming from the dropdown itself and proxy the ones coming from the dropdown. So that didn't work. Can't access window utils. This content window is undefined. Okay. My bad. Oh, because select content helper is not an actor. Got it. So let's try it this way then. Again, like I could probably simplify this a little bit or clean it up, but I just want to see if this is even close to a valid solution. Ooh, some kind of spammer in the chat. I'm curious if anyone has kick powers. You can get rid of them. Go ahead and knock them out. So we have successfully suppressed those two events. That appears to be working, believe it or not. Now, I don't know what the potential side effects of this are, of what I just did, but it appears to be working like bup, 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 bup. For these, it's bup, 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 bup. So we might have a solution here. It seems to be better. So is there a way we can simplify this a little bit? Yeah, we use element owner global a lot. So we're going to say like let win equals this dot element dot owner global. We're going to say win window utils And then when and then over here when so that might do it. I'm eager to hear what our our DOM team's going to think of this. Now there was also a test that I was apparently working on. Attempt at a regression test. What was this pointing at? That is not a regression test. Did I opened the wrong one. So in this, I was like, hey, let's add a thing. Opens a select pop-up, moves the mouse over the pop-up, and then again ensures that the right mouse events occur. So we might be able to salvage some of this stuff. We have to find... This test has changed a lot since then. So let's see if we can find this existing test. Here it is. Let's just run what we have right now. Mock, Moki test browser, select, what is it called? Select popup.js. Akris asks, do mouse in and mouse out events have associated data? Yes, they have the targets. They have they have lots of stuff. We should verify that they have the expected like target, original target, all of those details. So yeah, we can do that next. Just running this test real quick. Ooh, we locked up. So there might be a test that's relying on a certain set of events firing. So that might not be good. Come on, come on, come on. I'm going to wait for the timeout to finally hit because I want details on which part of the test we failed on or what part of the test we were waiting on. So while we're waiting, let me see if there are any questions from the last... I didn't actually check the feedback form from the last episode. Let me just see if there are any questions I can try and field. Hello? There we go. Unexpected mouse up event. Got 0, expected true. That's weird. We're like comparing a number, like we're coercing. Okay. Well, let's start here. 565 in this function test event or test that we get the right events when a select pop-up is changed. So we have, according to the spec, we want to fire input change and then click events on the select in that order when it has changed. Something also occurs to me about our implementation for this solution, which might indicate that we've got the wrong solution, which is I'll bet you if I select the first item. Oh no, it still works. Well, I got a mouse enter. I got 2 mouse enters. That's interesting. So enter, then mouse re-enter. What does Safari do? Nothing. That's interesting. I wonder if we're suppressing or unsuppressing at the right time. Suppressive handling. And it occurs when we dispatch the click. We dispatch all of these things. We dispatch element in the drop down. We fire mouse down, mouse up, input, change, and click events. Use the keyboard to select an element. We only fire input and change events. The user pressed escape. Fire nothing as the selected option is unchanged. Closed with click on. Closed by clicking on something. We dispatch mouse down, mouse up. And after all of that's done, then we uninit, which unsuppresses event handling. And what happens when we unsuppress event handling? Like if we suppress events, then we add an execution blocker. I don't think we actually, I think what ends up happening is we start queuing events that will be dispatched when the suppression ends. And we're going to do that for the entire document? That seems wrong. All of this seems wrong. We should not be following this. This is very ham-fisted and heavy-handed. We should not be doing it this way. Okay, I think I need help. So I'm gonna actually need info. Emilio. I don't. But when I revived the patch, which I've attached as a whip, so let me revert this stuff and we'll go back to what we were doing. Set capture. I wanted to use set capture always. Arrive the patch and updated it to use set capture always. Which is here. It didn't seem to solve the issue. I'm not really sure how to proceed with this. Do we want to, is there some platform mechanism I can use to suppress event handling by the select control in content, select control until the drop down is closed? I looked at, and then we're gonna say suppress event handling. scale. And while that kind of works as a replacement to set capture always, it also just ends up deferring events for the entire document until the suppression ends, which probably isn't what we want. I mean, I guess I could add a capturing event handler in the select child script for a bunch of events and just prevent them from propagating down to the select. Is there a better way? And I'm gonna request to need info from Emilio. And let me just double check that that set capture always didn't work. Have you tried to revert back the patch and try the test again without it? Maybe it's a test that fails always. Yeah, good question. We can try that. Okay. Okay, so let's create this patch that will call bug such and such, try to capture events on select when the panel is open. And this is a work in progress patch. So we'll commit that, post it up, and then mark it as we'll submit it as a WIP patch. Then we'll revert it, and then we can go ahead and try the test without the patch applied and see if that behaves any differently. Do we do something similar? Events. Event. Like we tell it to synthesize. Oh, we tell it to set content state, remove content state of active mouse. Then we dispatching mouse events like this. Yeah. Okay. So let's post that. Submit tip single whip. And then we'll revert this patch. Submit this comment. Run the test just to see, and then maybe we'll move on to something else. I was actually hoping maybe we'll skip this one. I'll do that on my own. I'd like to look at this one because we were working on this last time. I also want to look at this because this is kind of neat. Maybe actually I'm going to change the order. I want to look at this first, and then we'll get to this. I don't think we're going to get to the code reviews, at least not during my stream. I'll try and get to them later in my day. Okay, so that WIP patch is up. It's marked as changes planned on the bug. And now let's remove the patch. And then we'll run the tests again, just to satisfy our curiosity to see if those tests, I believe they do. I mean, this test is not disabled, so I presume that it's actually running fine in automation. Let's see if it runs okay locally. Okay, while we're waiting for that, I did want to see if there were any questions that had been sent in that I failed to notice. So let's see here. Test going, test running, hooray. Someone did ask, someone filled in the form on the 21st. No, there were no questions. And yes, the test does pass. So it was my patch that was changing things. I'm quite confident in that now. Okay, so let's submit this question. And then I don't know what this bug is, why this is open. Let's skip down now. I might as well, just for consistency's sake, put the bug name here, but I'm going to say didn't get to this. All right, I want to look at this. So bug 176.0417. This is a weird one because you can reproduce this by passing a broken URL as the first parameter. What basically happens is you get a semi-broken window. Let's see if we can reproduce that. So if you call mock run and pass this in as an argument, you get a window, and the window is apparently kind of broken. Like menus, bookmarks, toolbar, they don't work. So yeah, like this looks pretty broken. Toolbar's like kind of busted. Can I like browse anywhere? Not really. Window's broken. Everything's broken. So let's look at the browser console. Can't even do it. Browser, toolbox. There. No, I want the browser console. Okay. Lots of broken stuff. An exception was thrown. An uncaught exception was thrown here in E10s tools. And then, yeah, a bunch of stuff got broken. So I'll bet you that's where that first failure is important. Line 234. Oh, finding the preferred remote type. Yeah. And it's saying an illegal value was passed to site origin. By attempting to access site origin. Can I get access to the G browser? Can I get access to the selected browser? No. Can I get access to the window arguments? Count. There's one argument. Get element at 0. And what is there? It's probably a string, right? Like the browser, when it starts up, it interprets the arguments in gbrowser init. Handle URI to load. URI to load. Call arguments. Can I just access like window arguments 0? And then is it a NSI support string? Query interface supports string? No? Is it an array? NSI array? Yes, it is. And then how do I get access to the elements of it? Get element at 0, and then query interface CI NSI supports string data. Right. So that's the problem, is that this I think there's some kind of target principle. Where that's coming from, I don't know. Target principle. This target principle comes with the origin attributes. Origin attributes. Create with target URI. So if I say let target principle equal SM, which is I believe the script security manager, services.script security manager dot create content principle, and I'm going to say this. Is that a URI? What is that? I'll have to create a new URI from it. Okay, hang on. So let's put that on pause for a second here. I'm going to say let test URI equals services IO new URI that test URI spec. Okay. Now we're going to say target principle is create content principle. We're going to pass in the target URI, that's our test URI, and then origin attributes, which I think is just going to be an empty object. Now, if I say target principle dot site origin, it throws an exception. That's the problem. That's the problem. So I think we have to account for the possibility here that the site origin is not valid. So if so I think try here's what we're going to do. We're going to say like let origin try origin equals target principle dot site origin catch, and I wonder, do we do any logging in here? Throw. I don't really want to throw an exception. Obviously that breaks things. Catch s error illegal value. So how do I test to see equals .js. Result. E.result equals CR. Yeah, that's how we do it, I guess. If E.result equals CR dot as error illegal value, we're return a preferred remote type. Else throw E. And then we should use origin here. Maybe we'll call this site origin. And then we can replace these here. Okay. Shut down. Let's try this again. Yeah, mock run, and then you pass in a broken URI, basically. Like, it was this Twitter thing with a dot instead of, like, there's no like, www or anything. It's just like .twitter.com. Let's see what happens now. So this is like arguably better. Although it failed to attempt to navigate to that URI. What was that URI? It failed to attempt to navigate to this, which it probably should try to do. Huh. Even whenever, as a user, if I try and go there in a normal browser tab, it fails. It just like fails to load. So there's an existing issue here, but like the major issue of like fully broken browser, I think is fixed. So I think we have enough information to, I looked at this briefly. The problem is that during startup, when we're computing which content process to load the first tab into, we try to parse the site origin out from the URI, and an exception gets thrown in the str. That exception, because it's occurring so early within the browser startup sequence, causes a whole series of things to break. Let's tab into via E10s utils dot E10s utils' validate web remote type. And who's that called by? Validate web remote type. Is that just, oh, it's called here by get remote type for URI object. And who's the last person who touched E10s utils.jsm? Maybe I could have Nika look at this from the DOM team. These lines in particular, I'm wondering who touched them last. Site origin. Valentin and Nika did the reviewing. I think I'm going to ask Nika to look at these. Bug. I think I have a solution to make this more resilient. Okay. So I'll take that. Severity. I don't know what severity we want to set on that. But this bug. Such and such. Handle the case. Make sure we handle the case of an invalid site origin when computing which process type to prefer in E10s utils.jsm. Okay, so let's post that up for review. And is there a way we could write a test for this real quick? Yeah, maybe. Let's see. When this was last touched, where did session store, test browser opener policy? Tools, components, remote browser utils. Is that where E10s utils is? Tools, kit modules. Yeah, we might want a test here. What tests already exist here? Browser, document channel, process swap. There's also like the modules tests subdirectory. Where's E10s? It's under toolkit. Modules, not components, modules. And then there's a set of tests in here. And we have that. We have the modules tests. XPC shell. E10s utils workers remote types. I wonder if we could write a quick XPC shell test. Utils. If I just like call get remote type for URI object with a busted URI, then I would expect it to return the default remote type. Okay, let's add a quick test. Mock add test. We're going to do it under toolkit, modules, tests, XPC shell. We're going to call it test E10s utils get remote type for URI object. And we're going to add that to source control. Folks, I don't think we're going to get to those other things. I apologize. I was really hoping we were going to get to the linting stuff, but maybe that'll be next time. I apologize. Okay, let's look at this. So I want to tests for E10s utils get remote type for URI object method, which is used to compute preferred remote types for certain conditions, given certain conditions, for content given certain conditions, or preferred remote process types, certain conditions. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we can get access to E10s utils. So we'll import it like this. Just copy paste, put that right here. Test invalid site origin. Tests, regression tests, no, test that we get remote type for URI object returns the preferred remote type when given a URI with an invalid site origin. Okay, this is a regression test for bug. Here. So let's construct our method call. First of all, I think we can reuse a lot of what we wrote in the console earlier when it came to constructing the URI. Let's use the test case, which was, I think I'll just const invalid URI string, or invalid site origin, and then I'll put in like mozilla.org/ this is a test.html. Okay. Invalid site origin string. Okay, const, or actually I'll do services.io new URI. And then we're gonna say, how do we call it? E10s utils. What is the signature? Sorry, URI multi-process. Let's look and see how this is called in the wild. Remote type for URI. Multi-process, we're going to say true. Invalid site origin URI true. Well, we'll format it later. Remote subframes true. Preferred remote type is the default remote type. Is that something that's exposed? E10s utils, yeah. E10s utils default remote type. And then current URI, we'll just pass in the defaults. Null, null. Yeah, we're just gonna use the defaults for the rest of it. And let's assert equal result. I don't know actually if we have assert.equal in XPC shell test, so I'm just gonna say is got the expected default remote type. Okay, prettier that up. Let's run that test. We might actually have to build faster in order to get the test registry like solidified. Sorry, my microphone was dipping in. Boom mic dipping in. This is a classic gag, like the boom mic dipping in. Except here, I can make it come in from the top. Watch. So like pretend like I said something funny, and then the boom mic dips in. Boom mic dips in. Yeah, a classic gag, a classic gag, a trope. All right, let's run this test. And then I gotta go. Whatever happens, I gotta go after this. I've got other things to do, including the things that are still on my plate. But I have some meetings to attend after this. Okay, let's go. Fail. Is not defined. Well, what am I supposed to be using? Assert.equal? You tell me. There we go. Okay, so it passed. Now let's revert our change from before. Excuse me. So instead of returning that early, we'll just continue to throw. Meetings, says Danny Colon. Yes, the joy of meetings. Yay, it failed. Okay, so we've got ourselves a regression test here. So I'll amend that. I'll post it for review, and then we're going to call it there. Fab submit tip single. Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Hey, thank you so much for watching episode 284 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. I hope it was good to be back. I hadn't been here for a while. I mean, I wasn't here last week, so it's good to be back. I hope you had a good week. And I'm looking forward to hacking with you again next week. Maybe then we'll have a chance to look at that the linter rule. Presuming nothing else sort of emergency-wise has cropped up. This seemed like kind of important. I don't like whenever you can very easily, or another application that's trying to open Firefox with a busted URL, you just like break the browser. So this, I thought this was pretty important. That's why I dove on it. All right. Thanks again for watching episode 284 of The Joy of Coding. Let me know what you thought. You can let me know by filling out the form here at this link in the agenda. Rate this episode. I can put a link to that actually in the Twitch chat for the people who are in Twitch. Rate this episode form. I'm putting in the Twitch chat. There you go. And, let me know what you thought. I read all of the comments. If you got questions, go ahead and ask them. No one asked any questions last time. There were comments, but no questions. So if you got any questions, send them in. And with that, I'll call it there. Thanks again for watching episode 284 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. I hope you had a great time. I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.